Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Cold Pack and Izzo podcast. We're a week late because of the craziness of the season opener on a Thursday. We were a bit busy last Wednesday traveling, so we apologize for that.
We didn't quite make it.
We had other content. It's not like we were deprived of it, but we are here for our weekly
Not like
podcast.
we were walking down the Pearl Street Mall all day Wednesday, watching, eating, drinking.
How was the, what did you think of the Boulder experience?
Well, I'd been there before. I actually ran the Boulder 10K a couple times in the 90s. Not real well. Didn't exactly do a PR there at altitude.
It's a great college town. I just can't figure out why they're not better in football.
Well, and that was the question we all asked as we're walking around Boulder and seeing the environment and seeing the cool stadium, seeing the mountains.
Yep.
You're on the foothills of the Rockies. It's about as cool as a setting as there is. And we've been a part of a couple in the Rocky Mountains and since last December with Missoula and Bozeman. Now, would you take Missoula and Washington Grizzly over Folsom Field? I know, granted, it's different levels, okay? It's different levels of SCS and FBS and different levels of financing and money. But if you were to say, what is the coolest?
Montana.
Yes, I would agree.
Being there
because
twice,
the M is right there. The M trail's
There's
right
no
there.
doubt.
Yep.
Now, granted, I haven't seen the top of the mountain both times I've been to Missoula. One was because of the smoke and the haze, and this past time was with fog. It finally cleared out in the second half of the Bison game last December, but it's Montana.
Yeah, in December, I had this great idea. I was going to hike the M trail because what a cool column.
Right.
And you're there, and it's the thing to do is to hike the M trail. So Logan and I gave it an attempt, and we got about 10 feet up vertical. And the trail is just iced.
Yeah,
I go, no, I barely made it 10 feet down. I'd almost crawled. So the rest of the afternoon was shot.
I want to start with your column today. We'll backtrack before we get to Tennessee State because you wrote about the Bison matchup with Colorado, and now it's on. Like the Buffaloes will have another nationally televised game this coming Saturday night. It's against Nebraska on NBC, and everybody has high hopes, I think, for Matt Rule's team. But I thought what you wrote was well on because I'm not convinced that this Colorado team is much better than they were. They may win 6 games. I don't see them winning 8 or 9, not in the Big 12.
Oh, no, absolutely not. I just don't think they've improved on their line play as much as you need to at the Big 12 level. But obviously, I think Shadir Sanders and Travis Hunter are the best 1-2 in the country. And what's the guy's name I wrote about today? I forgot his name, but we haven't seen a duel like that ever in college football. I'm going, wow, that's might be a bit stretch, but I guess point well taken.
Horn Jr. was really good too. They're all really, really good. That's the thing. But
I don't know. I don't see them as going to a bowl game even.
You don't see them get to 6?
Not
really?
right now. Look at the schedule.
Oh,
I mean, teams are going to have better athletes to try to guard Hunter and Shadir.
And they're going to play Chris Kleiman in Kansas State. They're going to play Utah. They're going to play Kansas. They're going to play Oklahoma State. And I'm watching the Jacks-Oklahoma State game, and like you were on Saturday, and I'm like, Oklahoma State would destroy Colorado. That's okay. Oklahoma State's really good. I think they're going to run circles around them when they get to the end of the season.
Oklahoma State has six-year seniors on the offensive line. Yeah. One backup, and then they have another guy who's a 5th-year senior. He's the rookie of the bunch.
It's the great experiment like we talked about all leading into the Bison-Buffalo game about how this is going to go. And if it's another, like you may say, 4 or 5 win season, does he stick around? With his son gone to the NFL, with Shadir gone?
And Shiloh gone. Does he have to?
I don't think so. Travis is gone. Maybe Jerry Jones calls him to be whatever. I don't know. That's the dichotomy and the difference of the coach this week. Eddie George wants to build a program at Tennessee State. It's not about him. It's about making Tennessee State better. I don't get that sense at Colorado.
We're seeing a different dichotomy of Hall of Fame type NFL players leading programs, but going about it a different way. Yep. Again, I go back to the finances of it all. I mean, after the game on Thursday night, as we did our stuff, and then I parked in the parking ramp where the Colorado players park.
Okay.
And so we ended up leaving at about the same time.
Okay.
Let's just say my rental car didn't quite match up to what these gentlemen were driving. Oh, my God. It's just like the souped-up Jeeps.
They're getting around all right, huh? They weren't struggling?
Teslas and...
I'll say also, just to put a bow on the Colorado experience, just being on the sideline pregame, Jeff, doing our stuff, you crave those atmospheres. I hope it's not 4 years for the Bison get another one. I don't know how it's going to happen.
If that.
But that was so unique, and especially for the players to get a chance to that, you just hope that there's another one on the horizon. It doesn't look promising until at least 2027, potentially. But that was just a fun environment, man. I loved every minute of it.
And I was impressed by the Colorado crowd. I was impressed by the students. It's Thursday night. It's the first week of school.
They're still learning about football, though.
And they all stayed. They all weren't.
They did.
They all weren't trying to find the next house party at halftime.
But they were loud when Colorado had the ball. They're still not knowledgeable about the game.
They were brutal for many years.
I'm seeing on the Colorado sideline, I'm seeing them do the quiet down when they had the ball on offense. So they're still trying to figure that part out. But you're right. Atmosphere-wise, dynamite. It was fantastic. I came out of this. I didn't have a chance to talk to you because I was off on Monday on Hot Mic. I came out of this thinking the Bison may be better than I thought. I think offensive line play was really good.
But they only averaged 3.7 yards
that's something we
per
can get
carry.
into. But Cam Miller was not touched outside of one time in the game. I thought D-line held up pretty well. Although
got better in the second
half. Obviously, the glaring, we'll get to the secondary and specifically the safeties in a minute. But I thought Braylon Henderson made some plays. Bryce Lance made a couple plays. We're talking about playmakers all of August. Joe Stuffle made a couple nice plays. I think Marty Brown was getting into a rhythm that if you're in the hunt for playmakers, I think the Bison found a couple.
Well, and I think they need to get better at that, though, too.
Yes.
And
it's not, I'm
Tim
not satisfied with that.
At his Tuesday press conference, got to get used to that now, at Tuesday press conference, when he was asked about the running back rotation with Barica and will he continue to see as many plays, and then Paulsek, his voice started to get a little emphasis. Got started to get a little volume. Yep. And he goes, I hope he's the guy that we got to give the ball 25 dang times to. I'm just, that's not word for word, but close.
There. Yep.
And the
certainly in that volume, by the way.
Point being, yards after contact. They need to see yards after contact. And that will be, I think, the breaking point between if there will be a guy or not. Will there be a guy that's able to break a dang tackle?
I think it's Marty Brown. I think you're going to see it this week.
And the head coach said he seemed to find yards at spots where maybe yards weren't there.
Yes. Yep. I tend to think that his coming out party will be this Saturday against Tennessee State. I think you saw the flashes of it, that there's potential against equal level talent or lesser than what they're going to face on Saturday. There's the opportunity, I think, for him to get going.
And keep in mind, that was his first game in 2 years.
Right, correct.
First collegiate game, and you were at Colorado.
Yes, that's a heck of a way to break in. You made the point on what they rushed for. I thought offensive line, they played those 5. Nobody else subbed in. That was the 5. I thought for the most part, I thought they played well for their first time out there. One a redshirt freshman, one a transfer starting for the first time. Jake Rock is starting for the third
false starts.
No, there were no snaps over the head of Cam Miller. There were no false starts. No muff snaps. I think that's a clean game. I'm not a great all-line mind, but they graded out well, at least on that part.
Yeah, I think the most glaring penalty was really you could attribute to the head coach not calling timeout.
Correct. Yep. Paulsek did say also,
and he took responsibility,
he did, that Bo Johnson is coming on as well, because he mentioned Mason Miller moving inside. So that's something to keep an eye on. That if Johnson gets to a part where he's consistently good, Johnson's going to be the right tackle. Miller will then become the right guard, and because that's the position he finished at last year, then that's your O-line, with Lewinsky probably working his way in there too.
So why now? Why is he coming on without playing a game? How do we know this?
From what I asked Tim yesterday, he said he's got to be consistent now
in practice.
He was there now, consistently doing it time and time again. So keep an eye on big number 70. That's Bo Johnson from Spring Lake Park. We may see him make his college debut this coming Saturday against the Tennessee State Tigers.
Well, you say he's big. He's 6'6". He's listed at 287.
A large human.
So he's got some reach at 6'6".
Right.
Mason Miller at 6'7", 305 would be a pretty big guard.
Well, he played inside last year, remember?
Jake Rock's 6'7", 315.
Right. Remember, Miller moved inside last year when they changed things up and moved Gray to the outside.
Go ahead.
He's also said that Zabel played like a pro in front of the 30-some-odd NFL scouts were there. Gray Zabel made himself some money in that game on Thursday night.
One thing when I asked about Tim about is there any potential lineup changes in the offering, because he said, what was it? We were clawing and fighting as a staff on personnel. I said, well, does that mean you're changing? And he said, well, not necessarily.
Coaches had to fight for their guys, basically, how he paraphrased. I'll paraphrase on that, on the discussion on their specific position groups.
So the point being that you got to earn your keep.
Yeah. And that leads to our next topic, which is the safety spot. And when asked about it, you asked him yesterday, and he said it in a way, there's two parts out of this. One, and this is something we all knew, and I think fans that listen to this podcast know, the guys they have are the guys they have. There's no one coming in, out of the rafters to save them, and said, I'm not saying Cole Wisniewski's going to help. He's done. He's not coming back.
Stop talking about him.
Right. Now, you can take that two ways about he's not coming back, because there was a finality to it, Jeff, that I think we both, and Mike and Eric, were in the same boat, that I don't think Cole was coming back anyway this season. It just didn't sound promising, but he made it known, don't keep wishing for number 31 out there. So now that leads to the next part. How do they fix this on the back end?
I think they still have some pretty big promise with Jalen Crumby, redshirt freshman safety, who's currently hurt. We don't know the extent of an injury, do we?
No, he said come back soon, so maybe by
sooner than later.
Maybe by conference play we see him, but young man from Florida who during camp was getting plenty of reps with the ones before he got dinged up.
On the pregame show on WDAY statewide, I said this is a Darius Givens year, and I'm not real
not a great
happy
start.
with that start.
Not a great start.
Because he's a great athlete. Man, he took a couple bad angles and this is his third year in the program. It's like that angle. And people go, what do you mean by angle? Well, I attribute to like youth hockey. When the puck's going around the board, you go to where you think the puck will be down the ice.
Yep. Not where it is.
You don't go chasing the puck where it is.
Yep.
And so when you have a guy who is Travis Hunter, you got to find a point to where he'll eventually, when you two meet up, that's the point.
Contact there.
And it's not right at him.
Yep. No, that's a great point.
You might have to give up 5 yards.
Instead of 41, like they gave up on the touchdown. But that's the group. It's Jones has got to be better. I think Sam Young's got. And the caveat of this, Jeff, is that they're not going to face the level of talent like they faced on Thursday night.
Duly noted, and we've noted that.
But there are still some good. I mean, Griffin Wilde's out there from South Dakota State. Bo Belquist is out there from UND. They're going to see a couple guys over the next few weeks that they can't let them be running for 25 yards scot-free.
Yeah, they may not have Travis Hunter speed, but they have ability.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they have Travis Hunter ability, but they're pretty close.
Right. They're
pretty dang close.
There are guys
good.
out there.
They're good.
They have to figure this out, and that requires probably some tough conversations. That was a tough moment for Devin Kleiman as the new safeties coach to get thrown into. Granted, knowing what they're facing, I would say in quotation marks, get easier from here, but play's got to be significantly better. I think at corner as well. It's not all on the safeties, but because Jalen Duffy, we interviewed him yesterday, redshirt freshman from Illinois, got majority of the snaps in the second half. I would anticipate you're going to see a lot of him out there on Saturday.
Hey, Devin, I know your point because my first full-time job was in Jamestown. My first call on my first day was to Braddock girls basketball, who had Nadine Schmidt. And so the head coach is Dell, and also his last name is spelled Svalen. So I make the call. I go, yes, is Mr. Zvalen there? And the guy who answered happened to be the principal, said, yes, this is Mr. Swalene. Sorry.
First day?
First call. First day.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough.
I got burned for a 38-yard touchdown right off the bat. 41-yard touchdown.
But you know what? You got to have the memory of a butterfly, right?
I came right back, and I dove right into it.
you rebounded well, right? So we'll see. That's to me is the big key of what they're going to do defensively going forward. I did want to play a quick snippet from Eddie George, his press conference yesterday, Kolpak. This one he was asked about Cam Miller and what he sees out of the Bison quarterback, and I want to go from there on Eddie.
Cam Miller, he's able to do it all. Not only are you concerned with his ability to run the football, I believe him and the other quarterback, they led their team in touchdowns last year, I think, with 26. Between the two of them, they run the ball efficiently. Now the element of him throwing the football, his ability to sit in the pocket, and get outside the pocket and still look downfield to make the throws, cause some concern. So it's going to be a lot on our defense. It's going to put a strain on us to really be disciplined in terms of our eye discipline, keeping our eyes on our work, covering the receivers, really being disciplined in our rush lanes. And when we get a chance to get him down, we have to get him down. It's going to be fundamental football. He's a big kid, strong, great leadership, and it's going to be a great challenge for us.
Well, he knows full well what he's getting himself into for this coming week. He also said that Cam Miller is the best quarterback they've faced since he's been there. Now, I will point out they faced the likes of Shedeur Sanders twice because Tennessee State played Jackson State when they were there before they transferred to Colorado. Also faced Sam Hartman at Notre Dame last year. So we know coaches are sometimes prisoners of the moment and looking at the tape, but I'm not trying to diminish Cam in any way, but knowing they faced some pretty good guys over the last couple of years.
Well, I guess I haven't broken down Hartman, but I have seen Shedeur.
Yeah.
Well, Shedeur is good now as when he faced him. I guess maybe that would be my question.
He threw for. I got the stat line for the first game. You want to throw? I'll throw this up at you here. So the first game when they played in 2021, Sanders was 30 of 40 for 362 and 3. The second time they played in 2022, 30 of 44 for 276 and a touchdown. So they were a bit better the second time around, but they won both games. Jackson State beat Tennessee State both times. Hartman, by the way, was a transfer that went from, I believe, Duke, then to Notre Dame, and now has got a crack in the NFL. So the point is, though, Cam was electric. I thought he was really, really good in the opener. He plays like that. The consistency of the season, Jeff, the Bison are going to win a heck of a lot of ball games.
Played like a veteran. Yeah. Played like just a veteran that he is, and they expect him to be. But the fact that he did it in that situation, that being said, they only had 6 points in the second half.
Correct. Yep.
So there's obviously room there to improve on. Maybe Colorado's defense is improved, like the head coach, what does he call himself?
Coach Prime
or
Coach
something
Prime.
like that, whatever.
Coach Prime. We don't have to worry about it anymore. But I would think, I think adjustment-wise, and that goes to the Cole Payton question, because the one drive they were moving in the third quarter, that's when the delay of game happened. They also took Cam out. And then Paul said something yesterday, and we didn't get a chance to follow up on it, said that because he wasn't going to go into it, that Cam was working through some things prior to the game, which I don't know what that means. If he was hurt or he was sick, or he said he wasn't going to address what that was, but they were working through some things with Cam before the game.
Well, we saw him on Media Day on Tuesday, and so he looked fine there. Yeah. So whatever it was. Before we leave, I got a little story on Coach Sanders. So my Game Day story this week is on a man named Bob Angelo, who was with NFL Films for 43 years. Bob wrote a screenplay, and part of that screenplay has to do with on a fictitious character based on true events, and part of that is the 1980s NDSU football team. He takes his character from Pennsylvania, didn't make Penn State, so he puts him in North Dakota State because that's where he went, and I'll just leave the rest of the whole script for another. We should get him on, actually.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And so I asked him, and we were just talking after the interview a little bit, because I helped edit I edited the screenplay.
Screenplay, did you now? Are you getting screenplay credits now?
I don't know. I guess, am I going to be, if it makes it?
Yeah.
And then they win an Oscar? Will I be like Kramer up and partying all night with the Oscar?
I just want to see your name up on
I
the
know,
screen,
me too. So anyway, we're talking about Deion Sanders and all his experience with him. And again, NFL Films, they're right there. And he goes, yeah, half the time he was a prick. Half the time he was all right.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I could see that. That's probably pretty accurate on that. It was quite the experience. That's all, and that's a complete flip. And that's why I'm intrigued on where Tennessee State goes. I had them in the playoff mix last year, Jeff, and they lost their last 3 games. I think Eddie's going in the right direction with them. He's getting the players that he needs to be successful. I think they can be a better HBCU, historically black college university. I think going forward, I think they're trending in that direction.
Trying to parlay the Nashville location and setting into a bigger time football program in FCS. I guess it all comes down to they have the finances and money. They're trying to make it work at Nissan Stadium.
Right. They're playing at the home of the Titans. By the way, the Bison will go there next year. This is the front end of a home because the Bison will play in Nashville next September, which will be quite the party down there, I would anticipate.
Hearing a lot of people planning the opener at the Citadel, flying to Charleston, South Carolina, renting a car, going to that game, and then making the trip up to Nashville and taking the one way from Allegiant home.
There you go. They got it all mapped out to start 2025.
They better get on it because that could go fast.
But in that league, it's now the co-op of the Big South and the Ohio Valley, which Western is in there now with Western Illinois. It's a mix of, you've got SEMO, Austin Peay's in there who have been pretty good. Eastern Kentucky had a spell for a little while. It's hard to make of what that league is either. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard to wrap my mind around that.
We've been saying it for a few years now. It's really now the Big Sky and the Missouri Valley. CAA is just.
I'm just looking here at the teams in this league, right? So you've got Western, Tennessee State, Tennessee Tech, Gardner-Webb, Charleston Southern, your friends from Lindenwood, UT Martin, and SEMO in Eastern Illinois. That's the league as it stands. It stands to reason if they get some players, Tennessee State can be really good and win this.
It's there for the taking.
That's, I guess, my point on that.
That league is there for the taking.
I mean, SEMO was a breath away from beating New Mexico State this past weekend and being 2-0. That's kind of been the team. We'll see SEMO in person next year. They come to Fargo in 25. But to your point, it's there. If they can find some good players and consistently recruit, I think they got a chance to be pretty good in that.
Where
league.
is Southeast Missouri? Is that Kirksville?
No, that's Cape Girardeau.
Cape Girardeau
is where SEMO is. So, although you got your eyes on Lindenwood, right? That's your team.
Yeah.
Moving forward, I don't want to give away our picks, so I want to give a couple other games that potentially look at this weekend. We're not picking the game on Saturday on Bison Gameday. South Dakota is playing at Wisconsin this week. Boy, the Coyotes go from one end of the spectrum, playing Northern State to now playing a Big Ten team. I was not impressed with Wisconsin.
Didn't light it on fire either. So it's a chance for them to hang in.
Yeah. Probably Wisconsin, though, by a couple touchdowns, you'd imagine, in that one. Yeah. Were you disappointed how the FCS did against the big boys this past weekend? We had no FCS over FBS wins this past weekend.
Yeah, I thought there would have been one or two.
Yeah.
Just other than previous week, Montana State winning.
Northern Iowa plays at St. Thomas. St. Thomas got blown out by Sioux Falls.
That was a surprise.
So what do we?
We'll find out.
Northern Iowa's going to St. Paul this week. That game
that's a great home game.
Great get for them. That may not be so good for St. Thomas and Glenn Caruso down there because Sioux Falls looked awfully impressive in that game.
I thought there were some winnable games there for the FCS. Yep.
Illinois State got boat raced. They didn't even show up in their game with Iowa. They were not competitive. Southern Illinois
40-0.
Yeah, Southern Illinois was not competitive. I picked them to beat BYU. They weren't competitive in that game. Trying to think who else. South Dakota State. What do we make of how they played against Oklahoma? That game was never really in question, Jeff, against Oklahoma State.
No, and again, I thought you had Mark Gronowski, but obviously not the team at this point they were last year. At this point.
Right. I thought Gronowski was average in the game. I think you see the toll now of losing a couple NFL guys on the offensive line.
The Yankees were so good. I think people forget about, you could talk about Isaiah Davis and you could talk about the offensive linemen.
Right.
And but the Yankees were just so good. I just thought they were the difference makers on that team.
They usually were. They usually,
with their toughness, they just got open. They beat tackles.
And I'll say this: Amar Johnson is a really good player. He's not Isaiah Davis. He's
not
not Pierre
big.
Strong.
No,
he's not that
good.
Right?
Yeah.
He's not. Those two guys are NFL backs in both Johnson and Davis that they lost. That goes to what I've been saying. I think you've been saying, writing that you can't keep replacing guys. You lose guys to the NFL. It's tough to keep finding that. The Bison are going through that now. I think the Jackrabbits are going to start to see that. Again, I'm not saying South Dakota State's going to win 4 football games. I think the Jacks are still the class of the division. I just don't think they're as good as they have been the last 2 years, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's logic. That's a respectable opinion right now.
I think, and I still think they're going to blow out. I'll give my pick away. They're going to blow out the Word this weekend. I don't think that game is going to be close. I think they'll handle Incarnate Word.
The Word is Lindsey Scott Jr. back for his 10th year of college.
He's not there. This is not the Incarnate Word team that we're used to. Before we wrap, the game day changes. We've talked about on this podcast for years about the stale environment of the Dome. Not going to be that way on Saturday. What are you looking forward to the most of seeing?
I attribute to Tim Paulsick. I asked him about it on Tuesday, and he said, well, yeah, I was part of discussions. He liked the Frisco walk.
He was not a fan of the helmet.
No. Yeah, what'd he say?
I was not a fan.
I know.
He said it's no secret I was not a fan of the inflatable helmet.
He would have put a machete to it.
I think he would have stopped out with some cleats.
Yeah. So he liked they have a walk at Iowa that he liked. So I think he brought that.
Too.
And I like the fact that everything was on the table. And we've said this for years on this. So that now they have a ticket package.
Yep.
Good for them.
Yep.
Now they have the Thunderstruck thing was sacred. It is sacred.
Right. Non-negotiable.
Yep. That's off the table.
Yep.
Everything else on the table.
As it should have been.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that walk could be really, really neat. Something that we've been out in the tailgate lots over the last handful of years. The zip isn't there. Now, can they get it back? Maybe. I think this is a good start to that. I don't know if you're ever going to recreate what the lots were like in 13 through 17. It was just electric out there. I don't know if you're going to get that kind of magic back, but this is a good start to
There's
that.
enough people there at least to line it a little bit,
yes,
I would think.
I would think that. And it makes people want to be there 2.5 hours before the game because we can remember the line being packed the night before the game. I don't know if it's like that anymore.
Where are they coming from? They come from their team meal?
Yes. So
at the dining center?
We come north up Albrecht, right on the west side of the Dome, into the Dome. That'll be quite the sight. We'll be done with Bison game day by then, so I know I'm going to be out there to get a glimpse of it.
I should lead the way.
Yeah. You're the screenwriter now.
Hollywood.
The helmet being gone will be jarring, I think, to some, but I'm interested to see what the pyrotechnic display is before the game begins.
You think about it when the video of them coming out of the locker room was cool, but after that you're lost.
Yep.
You just kind of go into this darkness of the helmet, and then all of a sudden they come out, and that's that.
And sometimes they get lost in there for like 30 seconds to a minute. Like it drags for a little bit. Yep.
So I'm curious to see if they've figured out how to do that tunnel walk,
more
is what they call it.
Yep.
And then follow it all the way out to the field.
And there are going to be fans lined up there as well on the tunnel walk. You can buy a package to get down there because almost every NFL team, if people I know watch the Vikings, they see them run out at US Bank Stadium. The Cowboys do it. The Raiders all have that stadium where you can do that. And I'm interested to see if there's some high-priced Bison fans down there.
Good for the administration for being open to changes.
And it all begins on Saturday. Bison Game Day will get you started 10 a.m. with Jeff, myself, Kyle Emanuel, and Sam Getzinger as part of our crew. Sam will be on the sidelines for our Bison TV debut on WDAY on Saturday. The kickoff show is at 2:20, so you get to see all of the newfangled stuff to begin the game, and then football just after 2:30 with the game on WDAY. Looking forward to our 4th year of being the TV home of North Dakota State. Begins on Saturday, and we're looking forward to it. Nothing like a Bison game day at the Dome.
Nobody does it better than you guys, I have to say.
It's a lot of fun.
This side of ESPN's 29 cameras.
And ESPN being blacked out on my DirecTV. Just don't know what it looks like anymore.
There we go.
Just lamenting that. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the Kolpack and Izzo podcast. We'll see everybody next week.